people who pride themselves on verse by verse, dot by dot, expository. They get to this passage, they read one verse, and then they jump all over the Bible and give you their Christmas sermon. And there's absolutely no context whatsoever. And so, Kevin, I think you know me well enough to know, I listened, and then I went to the next person, and I was disappointed. I went to the next person, and I'm disappointed. And then I'm starting to get frustrated, and I just determined, no matter what happens, that is not what I wanted to do. And so I started jumping in here, and I'll confess before I started jumping in here, and Brother Ivan, what happened is I just started going way slower, way too slow. And trying not to do that, I did maybe something just as bad, and we'll see. Verse 1, chapter 5, verse 1. Now gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops. Now remember what's going on. This is prophecy. It's written in Hebrew poetry. This is talking about judgment is coming. The judgment for the northern tribe had already been pronounced. This is judgment for the southern tribe. Now gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops. He hath laid siege against us. So this is talking about something that hasn't happened yet. It is going to happen. In our time, it already has happened. This is when the city of Jerusalem was laid siege to. And it says this is going to happen. And when this happens, when a mighty nation comes and besieges this city, they shall smite the judge of Israel with a rod upon the cheek. So verse 1 starts out right away. And Miss Max, I'm going through here. I'm plodding along. I want to make sure I get everything right. So what's going to happen is they're going to besiege the city. And then we get to this passage. It says, he hath laid siege against us, and they're going to smite the judge of Israel. All right, so I'm not real smart, but I'm this smart. If you besiege a city, there's walls around the city. When you besiege the city, you're on the outside. The king, the judge, the ruler, he would be on the inside. If this mighty nation, Doc, is going to get face to face with the king, who was supposed to be on the inside when they were on the outside, they've already breached those walls. Okay, so it starts this picture with there's going to be a siege around the city, but it's going to end up this way. The mighty nation on the outside, they're going to break through. And what's going to happen is the king is going to get smitten on the cheek. Okay, no. If you slap somebody on the cheek even today, you know what that is? That's disrespectful. That's I'm in control. That's I have the power. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. So I'm telling you that's predicted in this passage, but if you go to 2 Kings chapter 25, you're going to see it happened. Okay, Nebuchadnezzar besieged the city, and Zedekiah tried to sneak out. And when he tried to sneak out, they caught him. They also caught all of his children. They killed all of his children right in front of him. Then they put his eyes out. Then they bound him in fetters, and they took him to Babylon. Now, Miss Christian, when I hear that, it's Father's Day. What a terrible last vision. Okay? Torture, done on purpose. Okay, so all of these thoughts come in, but then, Doc, my thought goes to, they slayed all of his children. What about the Davidic line? Jesus has to be born from the line of the kings, starting from David all the way through. But Mark, this is a panicking problem. Okay, well, you read that in 2 Kings chapter 25. Don't skip 2 Kings chapter 24. Because in 2 Kings chapter 24, Jehoiakim, who always did evil, is taken. Jehoiachin becomes ruler, line of David. And by the time you get to the end of 24, Doug, what happens is Babylon comes in, swarms over the city, takes away captives. In the captives, they take away Jehoiachin, Davidic line. They take him to Babylon with 7,000 mighty men and all this list of men of valor and knowledge and probably Daniel. They take them to Babylon, and he goes to his uncle. Who? Nebuchadnezzar goes to the uncle. All right, I'm taking you, so we're going to put you as puppet king. We're even going to change your name. We're going to change it from what it was to Zedekiah. Now we got this puppet king, continue to pay me. So Zedekiah plays ball for a little while. Then he decides, I'm king. I don't have to listen to Nebuchadnezzar. Does this not sound stupid? Have you not seen what they have done to the rest of the known world? Do you not know how you got to sit on your little throne? But he says, I'm not going to pay tribute anymore. And so this is done to Zedekiah, king of Judah, not direct descendant of the Davidic line. Very important, by the way. We're going to dwell on it. I just want it to be known. So we get this picture. And you can read this in 2 Kings chapter 24 and 25. Now, this is where I want to go. I got to get started. Up to this point, verse 5, chapter 5, verse 1, we have seen that the nation of Judah and Israel have been living in disorder for decades. By disorder, what do we mean? That the people of God are repeatedly doing evil in the sight of the Lord. They're not walking in the truth of God. They're not living out the faith in God. They're not showing any love for God. In fact, Justin, what they're doing is they're trusting in, they're believing in, and they're loving the self. Okay, and from chapter 1 on, we have seen this shown again and again and again, and that's what happens. So here's the question. That's the condition of the nation of Judah. Question, Brother Justin, what's going to make them change? Justin's a smart guy, Donnie. So he's right back there going, Brother Jeremy, have you not paid attention? Well, I've been trying to, Justin. Make me smarter. Judgment is coming, Brother Jeremy. Not only is it coming, it's already coming in different areas. But Doc, it's right. Judgment is coming. That's chapter 4, chapter 3, chapter 2, chapter 1. Judgment's coming. This is not what might happen. Thus saith the Lord. It's going to happen. Judgment is coming. But, Brother Justin, that doesn't change the rebellious heart of man. And that's where we're at. Judgment is coming. Sin does have consequences. But my question is, how are we going to solve the rebellious sin problem deep inside the heart of man? That's my question. If you don't change that, will there ever be any real change? The heart of man is deceitful. It continually does evil. If we don't change it, all we're doing is hiding things better. We put on a better facade. We live more in hypocrisy. Is this not right? Thank you, Brother Justin. We agree. So, how do we solve the problem? Verse 2. In verse 2, every sin problem, every physical problem, every spiritual problem is going to be solved. This is how it's all solved. It is solved by the King, the Messiah, the second David. It is solved when Jesus comes. And so all of this we've pictured all of this so far in this passage. Now you get to verse 2. But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from old, from everlasting. Now, Doc, you can tell already. Right now, your head is going through, yep, heard a sermon on that in Christmas time, heard a sermon on that at Christmas time. Doug, we should hear a sermon on this at Christmas time. Well, what happens is we hear a sermon from this passage at Christmas time that has nothing to do with this passage. We take this verse, he's going to be born in Bethlehem. He was born in Bethlehem, and we spend all our time in Bethlehem. Brother Kevin, this was written here to this group of people to this time. Okay? So, I said, I don't want to do that. Let's take a look at it in context. And I started going through here and breaking down every single word. And Doc, I mean every word. We're like digging up the mud. You know what happens, if your car gets stuck after the hurricane, you drive off in the dirt, you hit and you're pretty soon, you're like, why didn't I stop? It took me like 4 verses to get to the place where I did not stop. And then somebody had to yell and say, you're digging up the mud. So this is what I'd like to do. We got a few minutes. I'm going to go through some of this because I think it's valuable. I think it has importance. But then I want to come back and look at it a little bit differently. And I think it'll help us with some applications. So I go through and I start looking at verse 2. But thou, Bethlehem. Everybody in this room knows Bethlehem is the house of bread. So here, out of the house of bread, out of the place that is the source of life, out of the place that is provision, he is going to come. Who's going to come? The one who's going to make it all right. He's going to come out of the house of bread, the place that sustains all of life. Brother Kevin, which is usually, if this is a Christmas sermon, we'd be running right to the place where he says, I am the bread of life. Isn't that amazing how it all fits together? It's so encouraging. Now, to them at this time, this really did mean something. Because the road, if you were coming up from Africa and you were going to Syria, guess where you went? Through Bethlehem. If you were going to Persia, so you're going to Iran, guess where you go? Through Bethlehem. If you were going to Babylon, if you were going to Iraq, guess where you go? Through Bethlehem. Now, what has happened right about this time, Brother Mark, is you got the Medes, the Persians, you got the Assyrians, and now you have Babylon. And you know what they have done? That whole area right there that you would be crossing over, they have laid waste to. So there's not very much travel coming up through here. Besides, Egypt is weak as can be. You don't hear any more about Egypt from right before this time. Egypt as a mighty nation is done. So all of this travel has kind of stopped. It's kind of slowed down. It's important because we're going to see something that's said about Bethlehem. But when you first heard the word Bethlehem, you know what you're thinking of? You're thinking of that little city of provision that you go through right before you fall off the face of the earth. If you don't bread up and water up in Bethlehem, you're in trouble. And guess where he's coming from? The place that gives you the water and the bread. The place that sustains life. Brother Mark, I think I'm smart. I'm on to something right here. I'm starting to go. Give me the next word. Give me the next word. I want the next word. I don't even get out of this same verse. But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah. Now, we know this deals with the family line. But, Doc, words have meaning. So what does this word mean? This word has this picture of blossoming, of flourishing. So the bread of life, who's going to be the source of life going forth, is going to come from Bethlehem, the house of bread. Bethlehem Ephratah. Now, you need to know that because there were 2 Bethlehems. One was over here, and one was over here. But Bethlehem Ephratah, Bethlehem, the place of blossom, the place that's going to flourish. But Ray, you know what's going to happen? Christianity is going to flourish. It's going to grow. It's going to blossom. It's going to change the whole world. After what? After his birth. Mark, I'm getting so excited. Words have meaning. What's next? What's next in here? Doc, you know we haven't got past the first verse. You feel the wheels spinning in the mud? Well, none of this is wrong. It's all great. But you can slow down so much you miss the whole picture. I'm sitting here feeding all this stuff. Brother Mike, this is all the stuff I want to hear. This is all stuff I know, and it's here, and it is here, and it's encouraging to me. But if I'm not careful, I'm going to miss everything that's in here, which we do a lot. But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah. What? Though you're so insignificant, if we listed 1,000 cities in Judah, you wouldn't even be listed. No, but you just said they were important. They were important. But by this time, they had lost view of its importance. It's insignificant. It doesn't matter anymore. In fact, today, you think it didn't matter then? Today, Bethlehem is in the West Bank. There is probably not a single Jew living in the city of Bethlehem. Ray, you know what happens if we ask, what's the city of David? Probably everybody in here would say Jerusalem, because that's the city of David. But you know what the city of David started out being? Bethlehem. And there's not even a Jew living there today. This is West Bank territory. And what did he say? Little, you're insignificant, you're tiny. But even though you're tiny, that ruler is going to come forth from thee. He even tells us something about that ruler. This ruler is, I just like this side better. Done. He's going to be born in Bethlehem. He's going to be born in Bethlehem. Ray to us, I mean, his life begins in Bethlehem. God did not want us to get this wrong. He is manifested in Bethlehem. Doug, his life does not begin in Bethlehem. It tells us right here. We haven't got out of this verse. It tells us right here in the same verse, JR, he is eternal. He's from the everlasting. This one who's coming, he's born in the line of David. He's going to be like David. He's going to be the king. But this guy is not born. His existence does not start when this happens. He's existing when I write this. He was existing before there was an earth. Don't miss the Messiah, the Christ. You know, see, sometimes it's, show me a place where it says he was divine. Well, the divine is going to be born in Bethlehem. Always was. This is so important. I'm getting so excited. He's going to be the one of provision. He's going to one that's going to make everything blossom. He's going to make it grow. And how can he do all this? Because he's the eternal. Isn't this great? I'm excited. I did think about this too. Then I start to think. This is when I get in trouble. It's not just reading and divine. I start to think. So, Brother Kevin, my mind goes off, and I'm like, just think about this. This is written before the captivity. Yet, by the time Christ is born in Bethlehem, they weren't even paying attention to Bethlehem. In fact, most didn't even realize it was supposed to be born in Bethlehem. They had to search the scriptures. They had to dig it out to find it. They're supposedly waiting on the Messiah to come. Their whole hope is on the Son of Man from Daniel 7 to be born. And at the time of his birth, they'd forgotten about Bethlehem. They'd forgotten about this prophecy. I don't know why, because everything else in this book has already come true. But they weren't even looking at Bethlehem. Maybe they weren't even looking at the Messiah. Doug, now I'm not trying to do this yet because I'm hoping to get to the end, but there might be a great application for us. Because you know what happens when we quit looking at God? When we quit looking at his incarnation, when we quit looking at the gospel, when we quit looking at what he's done for us, what will blossom is not Christianity. What will blossom is selfishness. What will blossom is what had blossomed at that time and continued to blossom even after, Justin, even after the judgment. 400 silent years after they're brought back, after the temple's rebuilt, after, they forget he's coming in Bethlehem. They weren't looking. Father's Day should tell us this. Not that we shouldn't discipline, but discipline won't change our children. Jesus will change our children. No. We should discipline, we should encourage, we should teach, we should example, but it is the Word of God. What do you mean, Word? Because the Word became flesh. And it is Jesus alone that can affect the heart. I don't care how much you make them afraid of you. They'll just learn to hide. So, I haven't even got to my change yet. I need to get there. So, verse 2, verse 2, the Messiah is promised. He's going to be born in Bethlehem. Took us a long time to get through that. Verse 3, the Messiah is coming. Look how verse 3 starts. Therefore, why for? Because I'm going to send you the Messiah, therefore will he give them up. Ms. Maddox, I'm confused. The Savior is coming, so I'm going to turn you over. The Savior is coming, so right now I'm going to abandon you. That is not how I would have written this story. But Mike, I'm not making this up. That's the next verse. Therefore, they're connected. Because he's coming, I'm turning you over. Don't you want to know why? Does this make sense? I want to understand this. Until the time that she which travaileth hath brought forth. Okay, now we're talking about a birth again. Doc, I'm trying to do this quickly, but I'm going to get excited. Okay, can you and me get excited? He said, until the time that there's a new birth, things aren't changing. And when is that going to happen? A time. When is that time? When he which is promised in the verse above, comes. Oh, isn't that exciting? It is exciting. He's like, got this. And he's rolling it out. But by the time Jesus is born, nobody pays attention. In fact, they're in the same place. You know what they're paying attention to? Power and money and wealth and property. Justin, they didn't change heart. They didn't learn a thing. So we know that. Well, how many times do we run around and say, how does this happen? I was talking to Brother Ron this morning. I caught myself saying, how can California be so dumb? Brother Rick, you know what I feel like? How can I be so dumb and not know the answer to that question? Absence the Word of God. There's the answer. So, I got to jump through all this. I got word and word and word. There's so much more mud, Brother Kevin, I need to spin. But let me do this. In the spinning of all of this mud, which is good, you can build a house out of mud. I live in Arizona. I've seen lots of houses built out of mud. They last a long time. I came across this. And this was a slap in my face, Brother Frazier. A slap I was so thankful for. Because I'm just digging a big old hole. Ask the question, what did it mean to the people who heard this first? This was actually even about a different passage. Preacher, you said something on Wednesday. I can't remember what it was, but it made me text myself. So I texted myself. I went home. I looked it up. And in looking it up, I came across this telling me how to study. So thank you. I'd tell you what it was for if I could, but I can't. Ask the question, what did it mean to the people who heard this first? Then you can ask the question, what does it mean, therefore, for us today? You can tell this is pretty old because they're going to stick in a whole bunch of therefores. If you only ask the question, what does it mean for us today? What does it mean to me? If that's the question you ask first, here's what will happen. The Bible will become for you a kind of source book for your own inspirational thoughts. And if that's how you use the Bible, you might as well use any other book, because your real focus is not on what God is saying at all, rather on the thoughts that are set off in your own mind. But Max, that's scary. I'm using the Bible to say what I want it to say. I've never known anybody else to do that. And the problem with that, of course, I'm going to tell you there's two problems. They give one. I'll tell you the other here in a minute. And the problem with that, of course, is that you're living then not on the truth of the Bible, but on the inspiration of your own thoughts. So I'll give it to you right now. Right, and that's 100% true. What did you say? The heart is what? Deceitfully wicked. And we don't even know how bad it is. We think it's right. We think it makes sense, which is why we'll fight it to the death to prove that we're right. So, if I'm living in the delusion of my own mind, I'm in trouble, Brother Mike. Okay, but also, here it goes, of your own thoughts. And so when the inspiration of your own thoughts dries up, which, by the way, is inevitable, we are not everlasting knowledge. He is. You begin to feel that your faith has lost its foundation. Oh, Brother Mark, I know an awful lot of Christians who are about to fit this statement. And that's where many Christians are. So it's important for us to ask not just the question, what does it mean for us today, but rather ask the question, what did it mean for the people first who it was written to. And then we can more accurately apply it to us today. Oh, Doug, that is so simple. I should have known that. You know what a big smack that was into my face, why I was dead certain I wasn't going to do what all them other folks were doing. Brother Kevin, I look back and there's just mud all over my truck. And I realized I needed a four-wheel drive. More torque, more torque. So, this is what I'd like to do. We got 10 minutes. Hopefully we can do this in 10 minutes. I'd like to go back and, Doc, just kind of mark speed. One of my new favorite terms. I just want to kind of go over this without spinning our wheels, and let's just see quickly what it might have meant to them at that time, and see if maybe we can't then get some applications for us at this time. First, verse 1. Simple. An enemy is coming against them. I'm making this simple. That's because the clock is ticking. There is a strong enemy coming. We can say it. Doug, we good with that one? Strong enemy's coming. Verse 2. Bethlehem, Ephratah. There's a strong enemy coming. God is going to give you another David. What do you think the tie to Bethlehem is? The city of David. Of the Davidic line. He's going to give you another shepherd king. Now then we get to that verse, therefore, I'm going to give you up. I'm going to send the Messiah. Verse 3, therefore I'm going to abandon you. Doc, I'm still stuck there. Except then I started to think about this. This is what happens when you start to look at it the way it's written, and then you start to apply it. You know how many times in my life I thought I knew exactly what was going on? But the truth is I didn't want to be shepherded. I wanted to, then I'll do it myself. And I'll tell you a good example. Come over to this side. Sometimes I'm scary when I walk around. I'll give you a good example of this. Ready? This is why we don't like to pray. It's so much easier. It's easier even to call the preacher. Preacher, let me talk to you about my problem. You know who I don't want to talk to about my problem? I don't want to talk to God about my problem because I want to be in control of it. And if the preacher gives me some advice, I still get to choose whether it's right or wrong. You know, he's a good guy. He cares about me, but he don't know everything. You ever been there? Yes. Don't admit it. Don't admit it. So, he's going to give them up so that at the time that the Messiah comes, they might be ready to be shepherded. Amen. Do you want to know what has happened in my life time after time after time? I try to do it myself. I realize I can't do it. Down on my knees, I say, Lord, help. Please lead me, provide for me, shepherd me. And he said, I'm going to send you the shepherd king. Now it makes sense, doesn't it? Therefore, since the shepherd king is coming, I'm going to give you some time so you're ready for him. Amen. And when that happens, Brother Kevin, while I fear it and don't want it to happen, but slap in the middle of it, when I finally turn to him, I am so at peace. I now know when there's nothing else but him, because that's what it takes sometimes, because I'm so stubborn, those terrible Jews. I'm so much like them. When I get to that place that there's nothing but him, I do realize, oh, thank you, Lord, because you are all that I ever needed. Why am I so stubborn and I got to go to Babylon to learn this? It's a scary book, but when you start studying, this is such a great book. Oh, and we definitely don't have time for this. But remember that whole birth thing? Doc, that whole birth thing, that gets so confusing. Unless you jump to Romans chapter 11. Which, by the way, is a study in itself. I will confess, Brother Mark, I'm confessing. I'm not going to turn and read some of those verses. Because if I did, first, it takes up time. That gets me out. But second, then we would have to have like 2 weeks just going through those verses. If people teach through the book of Romans, you know what chapter they run through? Romans chapter 11. But in Romans chapter 11, Paul says, look, you Gentiles, I don't want you to be ignorant and do the same thing that the Jews did. But let me tell you, the Jews are the original grafted into the vine. Okay? And since God grafted you into the vine, guess what? He's not abandoning the original. He's going to graft them into the vine. And there is coming a day that they, through grace, are going to be saved just like you. And that remnant is called back. So, Doc, when we look at this and it talks about on that day that there's the birth, it's when that remnant comes back. That's the day. That's the time. That's the event that he's speaking of. And by the way, if you want to go to Revelations, you're going to find a whole lot about that day. Or you could just show up on Wednesdays last year. I thought that was the only day you could talk about for a while. Let me tell you about the Jews. Why do we have to keep learning about the Jews? Well, because it's all about the Jews. They're his people. So, 5 minutes. So, if we just do this quick, we're going to see there's an enemy that's going to come against us. God's going to give us a Messiah. And then if you look at verses 5 and 6, because I want to get to the end, to get to verse 5 and 6, you're going to see that they're going to have victory over this enemy. Right, Kevin, smile. Okay, God's people are going to have an enemy come against them. He's going to provide the Messiah. The Messiah's coming. And after the Messiah's coming, there's going to be victory. They lose. I like this story now. I'm liking it more. I'm feeling better. Now, we should be trying to see how Jesus fits this picture, but we don't have that time. And I think for most people in here, it's pretty obvious. So, Doc, what I want to do is I want to say, how can we apply it to us? Now, here's one of those places, I don't think I read this. Verse 4. No, I didn't. I stopped. Verse 4 says, and he shall stand. He's going to arise. Shall stand. That means he wasn't standing. Okay? Shall stand. He will arise. Okay? He's going to arise. He's going to come. Things are going to change. And feed in the strength of the Lord. So I was still on my digging in the mud. So I looked up that phrase. So I was on that phrase, feed. That phrase, feed, has to do with shepherding. Is there any wonder that the Messiah is going to come and be the great shepherd from the lineage of the shepherd king? So I started thinking. But now here's the problem. Let me apply this to me. Verses 5 and 6, which we kind of skipped over. There's still an enemy here. So, Doc, in this picture, the enemy's going to come, and some, they're going to be trodden underfoot. They're going to struggle. They're not going to have the answer. It's going to be a battle. And then others, Brother Mike, there's going to be an overwhelming victory. So here's my question. Which one am I? Here's my answer. I'm both. I have today still a daily battle. No, I am not defenseless in this battle. In fact, Paul would tell us this battle is a spiritual battle. It's against principalities. Okay? It's not against people. We think it's people. If I could just get that person, if Gavin Newsom would just get out of the way, it would be... It's a spiritual battle. Okay? It's a spiritual battle. Now, in this spiritual battle, we have the armor of God. So we're not defenseless. But there's coming a day that there will be total victory. Brother Mike, every Christian knows the end of their story. We shall be like him. Forgiven, loved, perfect. We shall be like him. I can't even picture myself that way. But I can't wait. No more failure. All right, so now I got this. I got 3 minutes. I got to do this quick. So, here's the problem. Someday I shall be like him, but today I still have enemies. And I am looking for a biblical picture how to answer this. And Doc, pow, the shepherd king, he wrote this. He said, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. We live in the presence of the enemies, those who are attacking us. And I'll give you some things that fear attacks us. Doubt says, is this really real? Fear tells you that fear, I'm going to get you. You're not strong enough. We have enemies attacking us all the time. In the presence of those enemies, picture this. The Messiah, not dressed as a king, dressed as a servant, setting up the tables. Doc, he's setting up the tables. He's preparing it. Don't miss this. The servant is preparing this. He's putting on the tablecloths. We're watching him. The enemies are around. They're in our ear. They're telling us, you don't deserve to be here. Remember the scar from when you were 25. Remember last Tuesday? Brother Mike, they're just filling it up. He's preparing the table. He's putting the forks. He's back and forth to the kitchen. And they're just talking. And then he comes out of the kitchen in his robes. And I like this. I'm just saying it. And the trumpet sounds. And he says, the table is for you. And the enemies, they're gone. What we need to do is to live in that reality. You read verse 9 right there in that chapter, and that's what he's telling them. He tells them exactly, live in the reality that the enemies are going to be gone. I love this chapter. Brother Mike, close us in a word of prayer, please.